Welcome back, folks. Well, we're going to have quite a few minutes here with someone I had the opportunity and pleasure to meet. As you know, this is Veterans Day, and too often it's always identifying men and not women. Well, we're gonna give you a treat today. We're gonna give probably one of the most famous vets of all times, if you will, and someone we heard about, even I heard about when I was going to school, Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart. Is that right? Earhart?
Yes.
Earhart. Okay. And someone who's gonna be given. My guest today is someone that is very familiar with Amelia Earhart. She has done a lot of research, and she's really done her homework. And I'm talking about Barbara Ray Wiley. Barbara, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. She's got 2 books up here. We're going to go through all this stuff and whatever. But she's got some other little goodies, if you will, paraphernalia. She's got a hat, comparable to what Amelia was sort of worn, right?
Well, that's an authentic pilot's leather hat
right?
from
Okay,
World War II.
There it is right there. And the goggles and whatever. She had those on when she came here. In fact, you flew out of what was it? Back east, you'd flown. But he said goggles.
I just came from across town.
Oh, boy, I tell you. Here's some of the goggles and whatever. I mean, it's really neat, very unique. And this is another little was a little bear.
Well,
dog.
I think he's cute.
Little kind of cute deal.
Take him with me.
Kind of neat with the goggles, the hat and whatever. Yeah, that's kind of neat. But anyway, she's got some very interesting things. She got some cups there.
And Bruce, I have something for you.
Oh, gee, really?
This is a picture of Amelia in her cockpit.
Oh, really? I love it.
These
I love
were
it. Got a little water in there too.
These were her professional photographer that I met and enjoyed and told me all kinds of stuff about Amelia. And I have one too. Thank you.
Oh, wow. No spirits, I noticed, but it's pretty good.
No, we like that good. What do you call it? Portland water.
Portland water spirit, right? For me.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, good. Well, hey, in all seriousness, we want to make sure we take advantage of Barb here, and she's going to share with us some of the history, about Amelia, and whatever she's written. Again, like I say, she's written a couple of books, and we're going to just kind of spend some time with her along that particular line. First off, let's talk a little bit about Barb.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
Let's talk about Barb just a little bit.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I became interested in Amelia. I just was looking for another teaching job. I've been a teacher for 32 years of my life, and I was moving to another town. I went in this coffee shop, and I meet this man, and he's shouting and screaming and talking about everybody's listening to him, and yet people are trying to walk away from him, and he's grabbing people and talking to them. And I sat down next to him, and he said, "You know about Amelia Earhart, don't you?" And I said, "Well, sure. She flew around the world, and she crashed in the ocean and died." My gosh, this guy jumped up, and I thought he was going to hit me.
Oh.
He said, "She did not. I know what really happened," and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And that started and piqued my interest, because I didn't know a lot about her, just like you. I read about it and heard about it in school. But it's one of my favorite subjects today.
Wow, beautiful. Let's just get right up in it then. Let's talk about okay, so how you got involved? You got involved with that. That was the conversation that got you to the table, if you will.
Got
you got me? And then, when did you physically get involved from the standpoint of research and this, that, and the other?
Well, I was going for this job interview, and I did get the job, but I was so intrigued because this guy said he was going to do a movie, and I've always been a kind of a wannabe actress, so I thought, God, this is interesting, and he kept telling me how much help he needed. So I thought, maybe I could help this guy. And so I wrote him a letter after I got home that day and said, if I didn't know I had the job yet. And I said, I'll help you if I can. And I got the job. And so I was busy teaching my new position just down the road from the coffee shop. And all of a sudden I get a call, and he says, "Do you still want to work for me?" And I said, "Well, hi." And I found out that he was still needing a lot of help. And I told him, I said, "Well, let's meet again."
Okay.
And again, he just filled my ears with stories about Amelia Earhart. He had a relationship with her, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting stuff. And so I proceeded to help him tell his story. He was not a professional. He was not a pilot. He was not a real credible character because he was a hard worker, and he just turned into a 15-year-old in front of me, and he was 65 years old when I met him.
So he knew her personally?
There was a build-up for the world flight in Oakland, California.
Okay.
And it was 2 or 3 months where they were they were working on that plane. And now it's Veterans Day.
Mm-hmm.
There were a ton of military people all around, guarding the plane, guarding the entry and the exit to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
The military were very, very evident in this preparation. And Amelia, I think she was a veteran.
Yes.
Now, there's a still strong indication that she was inducted into the Army Air Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Army Air Corps started in about 1928. They gave her a Distinguished Flying Cross Award.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first woman to get that in 1932, and to my knowledge, she was the only civilian.
Wow.
So we don't think she was a civilian. We think she somehow had connection. And so from there, I just started working with this gentleman, trying to help him get his message out, to tell his story. And it was very exciting. It took me into a world like Alice in Wonderland, falling down the rabbit hole. And suddenly I was at Amelia Earhart's party. Everybody I met, and back to veterans.
What part of the country are you talking about now?
Well,
When you were-
Robert was in Oakland during
Okay.
this time. When I was in Southern California,
Okay.
actually. He was in Oakland as a child, excuse me, but he was living in Salinas, California.
Okay.
So he and I collaborated a lot, talked to him a lot, because I was trying to groom him into a speaker, and believe me, I was a big failure at that. I'll tell you what happened. The passion for this woman, by not just him, but other people got involved, and I developed the same passion. Here was a woman, a veteran of not a war, not an established war, but very well could have been the first prisoner of the war
Wow.
in World War II. And that was 4 years before it started. She also, or could have been the first MIA. Because we really don't know what happened to Amelia. The official story was she crashed in the ocean and died. That was the official story. Believe me, there's a lot more to that story. There's no smoking gun.
No smoking gun on it.
None.
Wow.
And for me, again, I was walking through this community, meeting these people, and boy, did I meet the military. I was invited to come into General Doolittle's home in Carmel. Now, by this time, of course, he was retired. He was probably, I think at that time, he was probably in his 80s. This was about 1987. And his wife and he lived in this retirement community, which was very, very cloistered and very, very nice in Carmel, California. And actually, Clint Eastwood had arranged that appointment for me.
Clint was there, so you met Clint.
Well, you know, this thing took me everywhere,
Really?
every which way but loose. I worked with this first fellow who knew her. Then I met all of these people who were passionate, like he was, about solving the mystery. And I wanted to talk to General Doolittle, a very famous pilot, a very revered military person. And what a gracious host. I was sitting on the couch, and his son from Pebble Beach is sitting there, who actually helped to arrange. I wouldn't have gotten in there if it hadn't been for Clint Eastwood, because I was approached by a group of people who were veterans. A B-12 bomber in World War
wow, very famous.
One,
Oh, wow.
or two, excuse me, was the one of the fellows in charge. The CEO was a Nam vet and had been a helicopter pilot. And this fellow, Steve, was in Nam, and he was really into helicopters. And he worked, and when he came back from the service, he ended up doing a pilot one-man copter in his garage. And he was just gonna, just like we say the space age people, you're gonna get in that thing and you could go here, there, and everywhere. And Steve was working on that, and he was a policeman on the side after he was got out of the military. And one day, Steve got the idea that he wanted to go bigger. and he decided to put together a retrofit project. Now, you know helicopters,
Yes,
having been
yes,
in Nam.
yes.
And he was going to design the necessary retrofit for all of the old Bell helicopters in the entire world. And you know, a lot of them.
That's a lot of them.
And what happened is, in the old days, they had skids or landing gear, not both. Now, today, if you go out and buy a helicopter, you can get one that's got both. However, Steve wanted to retrofit. And they invested, they found a lot of investors, invested a lot of money for this project. President Gerald Ford was the first investor.
Wow.
And sooner or later, all these wealthy people came in, and Clint came in with one of his friends. At the time, he was mayor of Carmel. Well, Clint, I was excited. I'm here, this wannabe actress, you know, and suddenly I'm around in this hangar. I've got an office over here, and I'm seeing these the airplanes and all these helicopters, and I'm seeing Clint Eastwood come in on his private jet, and I'm, whoa! I've really landed in the land of fun and excitement, and so it was really fun. And I said to Steve, the head of this organization, you know, I'd like to talk to General Gould. And he says, well, I'll talk to Clint. Maybe he can get you in, because they were pretty good friends. And so I got in. That took me to becoming kind of visible as someone who was learning a lot about Amelia Earhart. And as it turned out, I then met another general in Oakland. At that time, it was called the Oakland it was called the Bay Farm Airport, and now it's the Oakland Alameda Airport. At that time, and that's where Amelia stayed, in that area as she was building up for the flight. And it was the only hotel at that time in a hotel that had a hotel, and she was in it. What happened is the airport started a museum, Western Aviation Aerospace Museum, and they were having a Lockheed 10E Electra coming in. It wasn't Amelia's, but it was one that was like Amelia's. The Skunk Works down in Lockheed didn't make a lot of those, but they did have a few. She flew one, and then there were a few more scattered around. And the museum hosted the research consortium that I ultimately put together about Amelia Earhart Research Consortium. And we brought a lot of people, a lot of military people that were very interested, a lot of pilots. Oh, I met so many pilots, I can't believe it.
I imagine.
I didn't meet a lot of women, but guess what? They're there today.
That's right.
And Amelia was really ahead of her time. She was such a tough gal with her man's world in the aviation industry. She had a vocabulary that would burn the ears of some of the mechanics, as well as some of the radio controllers coming in landing.
Yes.
They said, "Look, Earhart, clean up your language, or we're not bringing you in." And you know, she had a reputation for being a tough woman, and yet she was beautiful. She also did beautiful fashions, and this is a woman that's unbelievable, very ahead of her time.
Well, look, before we can do quite a bit more on this piece, but I want to get maybe some little specific, as much you can talk about. You know, like her last. When did people learn that she had crashed in the ocean?
Okay, it was July 2nd, 1937, in Portland, Oregon, and I met the little guy who had been a little guy about 10 years old on the street corner selling all the newspapers. Amelia Earhart crashed in the ocean. Amelia Earhart disappeared.
Yes.
And it was all over the news, everywhere. There were many people throughout the country that were tracking her flight. Very few messages came through. That 15-year-old I mentioned claims that as an adult, who he actually went into the Army, the only reason he went into the Army, he wanted to get into the Pacific so he could search about Amelia Earhart.
Wow.
Because that's where she was flying. And on and on and on. There were a lot of theories. The little fellow on the corner selling the newspapers, when I moved away from California, away from the saga of the hangar office and the Clint Eastwood coming in and all of that, I was at a book signing for a woman who'd written a book about Amelia. And I was asking her some rather pertinent questions because I knew a fair amount about it. And all of a sudden this man walked up to me and after, and he was not very big. He was kind of a short guy. He had been in the Army, and he said, I've got, you sound like you know a lot about Amelia Earhart. I said, well, I've met a few people.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm going to tell you something. I've only told my brother, and he made fun of me, so I haven't ever told anybody. He landed on Mealy Island when the war was over, and they were going in there to kind of clean up the area and see what's going on. And out of the cave came 2 Japanese officers and 3 natives. They did not know the war was over, and they were scared to death when they saw the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this fellow, he said, on my team, a bunch of all those New Jersey boys, they didn't even know anything about Amelia Earhart. I was laughing how he was talking about his fellow buddies. And when these Japanese officers came out and the natives, of course there was no English from them, but they were the natives were really excited. They saw these guys and they came in on a plane, so they started telling the Army men a story about seeing a plane come in, seeing a man and a woman. And so then they were drawing pictures in the sand of a woman's body and this sort of thing. And it was very interesting because this is the kind of thing that happened to me. I had people coming to me with stories over and over and over. And sometimes they sounded pretty wild. But there were so many coincidences, so many sightings after that disappearance. So consequently, and I am a kind of a Pollyanna character. I met a lot of these researchers, people who were writing books and people who were giving lectures, and the scientists that were talking about the fuel consumption and the distances and all of that kind of thing. And I didn't know anything about that. But everybody was arguing with each other. No, she crashed and died. No, she survived. The Japanese took her. On and on and on. All of these varying stories. And I thought, these people are all fighting with each other, and they've all got something to share. So I started the consortium, brought them all in as members, and we had meetings and lectures.
Wow.
We would start on a Saturday morning, all day long, talking about Amelia Earhart, all the speakers, all this. We'd be doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the hotel was really upset because they wanted to close that room down and put us all to bed. But I'm telling you, it was just like we were all feverish. And that's why I call it fever. I call it Amelia Earhart fever.
Wow. Well, I've got 2 publications right here that I take it these are yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, this one right here, Barbara.
Yeah, that's the new one. That's the other one.
This the new one. This is the first
then
one.
85.
Okay. Maybe cite anything exciting about some of the stories. I'm looking at the.
Well, I'll tell you, because it's Veterans season or time for talking about veterans, which is one of my favorite times of the year because of all the military people I met through all of this. There was one theory that overwhelmed the remembrance of Amelia, and that was that our president, Roosevelt, approached her and said, look, Amelia, you're going to be over there anyway. You got air clearance to go around the world out by way of the equator. Amelia, we really want to know what's going on in the Pacific with those Japanese mandated islands. We're going to set you up with some photographic equipment, and perhaps you can help us out. And, Amelia was a patriot.
Right.
There's no question of that. Well, I want to tell you about 2 governmental intelligent programs that started way, way back 1922 with a guy named Sidney Mashbeer. He was a senior Army officer, and it was called the M Plan. Now, this was designed to acquire information from inside enemy lines. And there would be some sort of plant who would become part of the community, become trusted, become one of them. And there was Sidney got involved in that sort of thing in 22. In 1923, a Marine Corps distinguished veteran named Pete Ellis He ended up in the Pacific Islands, the Carolinas, the Marshall Islands. He actually became part of the community. He did speak Japanese, so he was very well accepted and very loved.
Okay, good.
And the truth of the matter is, the story was, when he died, that he died because he was a hopeless alcoholic. But then another story came through. The community learned that he was a military intelligence officer. So we again have another mystery.
Wow.
And, you know, it's the veterans community is to be revered. If Amelia was inducted in the Army Air Corps, and if the Japanese did pick her up when Roosevelt knew where she was and didn't go because he didn't want to shake anybody's boots 4 years before, if all of that's true, she has a right to be angry.
Yes.
And then the final theory, not only did she survive, did she go to Japan, but she got back here and died in 1982 in New Jersey. And a lot of people say, oh, this is crazy stories. Those are crazy, Barbara. Don't even pay attention. Excuse me. We had so much evidence. You know what it's like in us. You know, they have civil courts.
Right, right.
And you know how OJ and a few other people, they go in there and we think they're dead guilty.
Yeah.
And in a civil court, in a regular trial, they get off. Think about a civil trial. They usually get nailed. And Amelia, I think we could prove in a civil trial because of the predominance of evidence. When I was involved with the investment company and they were hiring me, paying me to research Earhart, whereas I'd already done it 12 years for nothing because it was so fun.
Yeah.
When I met Clint Eastwood, he said to me in the kitchen that Christmas Eve, we all had our black jackets and our leather gold imprint on our jackets because of the helicopter group. He said, Barbara, I understand you have a lot of information in your office about Amelia Earhart. And of course, I wasn't saying anything. My mouth was open. My eyes were this big. There was Clint Eastwood in front of me for crying out loud. And as it worked out, he got involved. He said, look, Barbara, if you can find that smoking gun, we are going to do a blockbuster movie. Oh, my God. Music to my ears.
Oh, yes.
So he set me up. He set me up with the producer director in Hollywood who founded Clint.
Wow.
Who actually, by the way, did you know that Clint was a helicopter, not a helicopter, but a airplane mechanic at Seaside, California at the Fort Ord.
Really?
He was that when
Army type?
He was an Army guy, yeah. He was a mechanic.
Wow.
And when he was 5 years old, he told his mother, I want to be a pilot. Well, during those years when we were doing this helicopter stuff, he was taking helicopter pilot lessons from these two CEOs. Now, let me tell you, you know how an airplane goes up in the air, and you get up there, and then you get level, and then you do your right bank and your left bank and all that jazz. Okay. This is kind of like this story. It goes up and 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 up. And guess what? We're in L.A. And I'm the only woman because I'm going down there to talk to the movie producer. Clint's arranged it. Up and up and up. Oh, I'm sick. I go with the guys. I'm with all the mechanics. We all got our black jackets on, walking through the L.A. airport, and everybody's looking at us, pointing at us, thinking we're some famous group. And I'm feeling like a star. I mean, whoa, this is very, very fun. Well, while I was talking to the director who said the movie proposal that I gave him was good. Oh, my God, this is music to my ears.
Wow.
I didn't know it. But the test pilot, the fellow who ran the place, the prototype test with the LAPD and the sheriff's office. You got this sheriff officer in the plane. Hey, Steve, let me land this sucker. And Steve, being an entrepreneur, said,
We got about 2 minutes now.
Okay.
Keep going.
He's going to land it.
Bring me that portrait. Will you bring that piece in here?
And to end the story, because we're up here,
Yes.
the helicopter in the landing gear collapsed, and those propellers, it's a darn good thing they didn't decapitate.
Wow. And you were there.
No, I was in the coffee shop with a movie producer. I didn't even know about it. That was almost the end of my story.
Wow. Wow. Hey, do we have a portrait? Do we have something inside? Yeah. Oh, she's okay. It's on the screen now. You don't see
cool.
that. Even that piece that you brought.
Beautiful
you brought?
picture?
Yeah, that beautiful picture.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you just kind of describe it a bit?
Well,
What is
I'll
it?
tell you, it's a picture of her. It's a picture of one of her envelopes that she likely had on her plane. And by the way, we're hoping to find one so we know really what happened.
Yes, okay.
I just want to tell you, it was I was 50 years old. My son was getting married that day.
Yes.
He says, "Mom, what do you want for Christmas? Or I mean, for your birthday?" And by golly, that was my gift.
Very authentic.
Yeah.
Oh, a one of a kind, too.
Oh, sweetheart, yeah.
Gee, well, tell me this. I was just thinking about that particular piece. There's probably a lot of information we haven't covered here. Do you have a website, by chance? That we might
I
be
do.
What's your website?
My website is www.barbara, and my middle name is Ray, and it's spelled R-A-E, and by golly, a pilot climbed all over me saying it didn't spell that way, it's R-A-Y, but he didn't know that Ray, female, is R-A-E, Wiley,
Barbara Ray, R-A-E,
Wiley, WILEY.com.
All right.
Got
Sounds
it.
good.
Got
well,
it.
look, this has just been great. I wish, notice I didn't intervene.
Well, I know. I talk about Amelia. I just can't shut up.
We may have to do this again.
Oh boy.
But again,
Oh,
happy
boy.
Veterans Day. I'm sure glad that. You got your bomber jacket on too. I like
Well,
that.
I've had it
Real
for
quick.
25 years. I've been
Sounds
wearing
great.
it.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. Okay, appreciate that, Barb.
Thank you, Bruce.
It's been great. I like the stories.
Great.
It's a pleasure.
Wonderful talking to
Okay,
you.
folks. Hey, we'll see you next week. Look like we've run out of time, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Take care. Happy Veterans Day. Get involved.
Was that okay?
Good.